RTHK Radio 3.
You're listening to Brunch with me, Noreen Mair, on this Thursday morning. Now, let's turn to our next topic and guest of today. In the next 15 minutes or so, we're diving into a subject that many students and parents face as the summer ends: back-to-school anxiety. And joining me today is Dr. Karakulain Zaidi, who is a clinical psychologist and also a family therapist from Mind and Life Psychology. Welcome back on the program, Dr. Zaidi.
Hey, thank you for having me. It's always good to be back.
Yes, it's great to have you on the program, and I'd love for our listeners to join us if they can on Facebook this morning, Noreen Mair on RTHK Radio 3. So perhaps we can sort of rewind a little bit. What is back-to-school anxiety, and why do some students experience this?
So back to school anxiety is anticipatory anxiety before the school resumes, and different kids, various ages, go through that for different reasons. For example, it could be the anxiety about what the new teacher is going to be like, whether they're going to fit in, whether they're going to make friends, if they're changing schools, so all of that uncertainty about what is coming next is what causes them to feel anxiety. In addition to this, I have to emphasize that, because of the pandemic, we were in our homes for the past 3 years as well. So it is important to remember that, the repercussions of the pandemic, even though it's over, they're still there, which is including the social anxiety, test fears, and germ phobia is still kind of continues. Those trends are still ongoing for us. And as the kids feel anxiety, or kids who are prone to be more anxious or more sensitive to transitions, from what they know to change, it also impacts the parents. Parents also feel that anxiety, going back to school. So we are also then anxious with them on how to, manage this for them and how to help them. So, yeah, that's the anxiety, school anxiety. That is what it is going back there, and what it's going to be like, the uncertainty of what it could be like for them.
That's such an interesting point, that sometimes when the children feel anxious, it gets sort of transferred onto the parents, and they also feel worried and maybe anxious for their children. Can it be the other way around? Can parents feel anxious, and can that sometimes then translate or then, transfer onto the children themselves?
100%. Children are like sponges. They
pick up on
all of our emotions. Absolutely. Certainly for me, and mine are much older now, right? They already know. They'll be like, "What are you upset about?" I'm like, "I'm not upset." Well, I think you are.
they know
so
you.
They are yes, they do, unfortunately. But they absolutely pick up on your non-verbal cues. And remember, 93% of communication is actually non-verbal. So it's only 7% is words. The rest of it is,
your body language and that look, that parents give.
That's the one, exactly.
How do children express? I mean, you're absolutely right, Dr. Zaidi, that parents can pick up on some of these cues, but sometimes how do children express those sort of frustrations and those sorts of feelings? What should parents be looking out for?
So if there are, if there are behavioral changes, for example, if they are throwing tantrums, or normally they wouldn't express such heightened emotions or big reactions to small things. So that's, the behavioral changes, looking out for them. Difficulty in relationships or family members, or getting along with people because they are anxious about something. So they're more likely to be frustrated, angry, and the emotional changes are along that, and avoidance of normal activities in or around, as they're going to school, or things that they would normally enjoy doing. And physical symptoms, let's not undermine that, which is, stomach aches, fatigue, difficulty falling asleep, constantly worried about what's coming or asking questions about it. I think if they're asking questions, it's a good thing because then you can help them. But it is the ones that are kind of going in and changing the behaviors and isolating themselves and not talking about it or not getting up on time. Those kind of things are very, very important to pay attention to.
Yeah, and it's now that we know and we have an understanding between gut health and the mind. So it's true, sometimes it manifests itself as a tummy ache. I'm sure some of our listeners listening may have been nervous about a presentation or been nervous about something, and they just feel this sort of stomach pain. And it happens with children too, and that's why they say, I don't want to go to school, I've got a tummy ache. That may be
Yeah.
one of the reasons why to look out for.
It's one of the biggest ones, actually, that I have a
Yeah.
tummy ache or I have a headache. Those are the two that I hear the most of, especially the younger ones, right? And the older ones, I've worked with many teens that they've had debilitating headaches. And underneath all of that has been anxiety, actually, for tests or exams or the numbers, the IB scores and those kind of things. So definitely, we cannot ignore the physical symptoms. As you say, the mind and anxiety and the emotions don't kind of exist on their own, right? We have everything is kind of related, and
Connected,
gut
yeah.
is so important, as you know, as we I think we might have mentioned it even last time, that it is the whole system, and gut is such an important organ, and we tend to ignore it. So yeah.
Exactly. Well, I was going to ask how might that sort of affect other aspects of their life, but you pointed out that it could actually then spill into anxiety for tests, and as the year goes on, it just sorts of spills over to the year to the year long.
It's the worries about, am I going to get along with my peers? Is the teacher going to be nice? Is the teacher going to like me? Am I going to get the right marks? It depends on where, what age they're at. And their worries are related, obviously age related. So the older ones are definitely more worried about the IB scores, the GCSE scores. Am I going to get the right tests, the numbers, the marks? Am I doing well enough? Does the teacher like me? Am I going to be able to understand this? For the young, and of course, they're going through the difficulty and the challenges of being on the social media, having an
Yeah.
adolescence at social media as well as in real life, right? So teens and younger people nowadays have such a massive challenging time than when we were growing up, because we literally had to go through adolescence once. They have to go through it twice, almost in two different forms,
And in a
right?
more
Real
permanent form, because they're living their life on social media in a strange way, and oftentimes it may be a different persona. So you see somebody's persona on social media, and I think it happens with adults too. But then you meet them in person, it could be a very different person, and so it's difficult to gauge one's mental health just by looking at the social media.
Agree,
Also, yeah.
100%. Yeah, so and the younger ones, definitely, it is more around, yeah, just the making friends, being able to cope. And if you are neurodivergent, then am I going to be able to understand the lessons? Am I going to be able to get what they're talking about, or how difficult or how challenging or how easy these things are going to be for me? So navigating the landscape of school can be very challenging, and navigating that journey with parents is for the parents is also hand in hand quite a challenge,
Yeah,
definitely.
I'm glad you brought up parents, because that's the next question. How can parents support this journey? Because I think, I mean, for the younger ones, when we were little, our parents just said, just go make friends. Just make friends. Yeah, it's not that simple, and I think parents often forget how difficult it is to be a little child and just not having the ability to just make friends. And even as the kids grow older, and like you said, with exams and stuff, I think our parents were of the view, well, you just have to, work hard, and that's all. But, it's different. It's just a bit more, it's more competitive these days. Maybe the materials are a bit harder. How can parents are busy in Hong Kong. Let's face it. I think sometimes time and patience may be contradicting each other. And if you don't have the time, you don't necessarily have the time to sit down and be patient. So how can parents navigate this with their children?
Look, I certainly grew up with, you just have to get on with it. There was just not indulgence of none of this kind of
Yeah.
thing. right? Nobody, you just, I don't think my parents even knew my grades or how they
Same.
knew I was fine, right?
Yeah.
It was just not a thing. So it's a very different, we're living in a very different time and place, and not that it's right or wrong, it's just different. So I think it is important for what is helpful sometimes is to be able to start getting into the routine before the school starts, right? So going to bed on a certain time, getting up at a certain time, you're preparing the younger ones as well as the older ones, and for the upcoming transition by the school year routines, realistic bedtimes, and screen times as well. So you're kind of managing that as you're transitioning. So it's not a sudden thing. So that's number one. For the younger ones, if the children are still around, and as people have come back from summer, arranging play dates with one or more familiar peers. And for the older ones, again, just knowing that these friends are around and you're kind of able to connect with them before you start school, that is helpful as well.
Yeah.
Because research shows that the presence of a familiar peer during the school transition can improve children's emotional adjustment to through that transition. And maybe if it is a new school that you're starting, then going and visiting the school before. And that's why I think the schools do have a transitioned kind of phased in approach where the new kids start before everybody comes back. And looking forward to something that's coming up as well. So you've got 5 weeks, and then after that you're going to be doing something with a half term that's coming up. And if your child is feeling worried, validate the child's worry. It's not about why can't you make friends, but it is, what is it about making friends that's making it challenging for you? What is it difficult? How can I help? And creating new activities, making sure that they're doing after school. I say that with caution because kids are back
I'm
to
so
back
busy.
in
Yes.
activities, right? So something that's fun where they can meet their friends,
Yeah.
that'd be good,
After school
right?
classes don't count. Just because they're
Yeah,
with
no.
other students, it
Yeah,
doesn't
no,
make
no,
it
no,
fun.
no. We're talking about fun stuff here, like going for drama or just
Sports, yeah,
yeah, exactly,
exactly.
all of that.
But not with the
Yeah.
aim to win an Olympic gold medal. They should also be enjoying the sports for the sports
Yeah, no,
itself.
not allowed. Yeah, no, I'm not advocating for that at all.
We've got a few minutes left, Dr. Zaidi. How can parents sort of readjust, their own expectations and their own mindset and prepare themselves? Because at the beginning of the program, you mentioned a really good point that sometimes your own anxiety may actually then transfer onto the students themselves. And it's also about parents not, pushing their own agenda and pushing their own anxiety on the students themselves.
Yeah. So look, I can share my own journey as a parent. I'm going to be taking my youngest one to university, and trust me, I am absolutely anxious and dropping him off. So it is creating the space to have that conversation and allowing him to come to me and be able to talk to me about what is it that is worrying him, if anything at all. And of course, he's like, everything that, this guy is like monosyllable. So like everything. I'm like, okay, how about friends? Yes. Food? Yes. Classes?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
That's
Right
great,
then. Right
man of a
then.
few words, all the right answers. It's
Yes,
it's a great
exactly. Yes.
track.
Exactly. So I think it is firstly being able to have an open and honest conversation about it, age appropriate, of course, right? Because the younger ones, you don't want to put this on them, but be able to just talk about that. Sometimes we are worried about things. I wonder if any of this, I mean, for younger ones, there are many books as well that you can, speak about this topic around transitions and worries. And for the older ones, again, I think the best is being able to create that space that they can come and talk to you, validate their feelings, don't be dismissive, make sure that they feel heard. And if you are feeling it as well yourself, then you need to learn to manage it with your partner or yourself and be able to work through that. Like, look, I am a bit worried about it. What are the things that, so other than moving into his dorm with him, I don't know what else I can, I'm joking. Yeah, no, that'd be ideal for
That would be
me.
ideal, yeah, but not maybe.
Not practical, not
Yeah.
practical at all. So, just being able to, I think, understand it, validate it, and be able to express it, and then then you can problem solve together. And that's always helpful.
Yeah, well said. Well, just remember, I think it's okay to feel anxious, and I think everyone experiences this emotion at some point. But really, with the right tools, with the right mindset, it can be managed. And also, if your child is struggling with back to school anxiety, or if you're struggling with back to school anxiety, then don't hesitate to reach out for help. And do stay tuned, because I'm sure we'll have Dr. Zaidi back next month for more chats. Meanwhile, thank you so much to Dr. Zaidi, a clinical psychologist and also a family therapist from Mind and Life Psychology. Thank you very much indeed for your time today.
Thank you.